Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter. Hello, fine folks. This is Freedom Fighter, and welcome to Goldilocks Global Banking News. I am your host. Folks, I just had my morning discussions with Goldilocks, and we reviewed the information that Goldilocks is sharing today. Very important information from the Commodities Futures Trade Commission. For those of you who may not know, all of the currencies around the world, whether it's the Vietnamese dong, the Iraqi dinar, the US dollar, whatever currency you hold will be backed with commodities, the commodities of that nation for the currencies that you hold. So when Goldilocks is sharing something from the global organization, which is the Commodities Future Trade Commission, pay attention. All right? Also, we're going to talk about the U.S. Treasury. The U.S. Treasury is the king of the RV. All countries, all currencies ultimately roll under the United States Department of Treasury related to the banking system, the global banking system. Folks, let's jump right into it. The Commodities Future Trade Commission, they announced that there will be a meeting on Tuesday, October the 29th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there's some important discussions that will be going on in that meeting, and they're all related to currency exchanges and related to the banks that will exchange our currencies. There are a few final rules that are on the topic of discussion for this meeting on October the 29th from the Commodities Future Trade Commission. One of the final rules is on the operational resilience framework for futures commission merchants, swap dealers, and major swap participants. This is also the operation resilience and the framework, meaning the strength of the swap dealers. Well, who are swap dealers? The banks. Why? Because banks are the dealers. They are the ones whereby we will swap the US dollar. We will swap the Vietnamese dong. We will swap the Iraqi dinar. So you're swapping the dinar for the US dollar. You're swapping the Vietnamese dong for the US dollar, or swapping whatever currency you have for the US dollar. Of course, this is for those who are in the US, exchanging in the US. No matter where you're at in the world, it will change depending on where you're located. But swap dealers are banks where you will swap your currency for another currency. The major swap participants, are like the exchanges and also individuals who will be swapping their currency and transactions in the banking system. So there's final rules that will go into effect by the Commodities Future Trade Commission for the resilience and strength. This is just digital and procedural transactions within the banking system to make sure that the procedures and the transactions are safe and secure in the banks. Another final rule: investment of customer funds. So therefore, for those of you who may invest in the banking system, there are new and final rules going into effect to secure our monies in the new banking system. Another final rule: derivatives clearing organizations, recovery and wind down plans, information or resolution planning. So if there's an issue, this is where the resolution planning is. If there's an issue, a dispute in the new banking system, whatever it may be, let's say, for example, you have a dispute about the money within your account, the amount that you exchanged, whatever it may be. These are plans, resolution plans the banks must have in place to have a swift plan in place to come to a resolution, and also recovery plan in the event of the bank's losses of money. Now, Goldilocks asks this question: do you remember these rules? The reason why Goldilocks is asking is because Goldilocks has been preparing us for months that these new rules are coming down in play. Goldilocks says we've been going over these rules for quite some time. Take a close look at these rules collectively, and you will notice how each of them working together in relation to foreign currency exchanges. The link is in the description for your proof. The receipts are there. Now Goldilocks is sharing from the U.S. Treasury. There are two modifications, folks, that are going into effect on November the 25th related to the secured overnight finance rate, which you remember on October the 1st became law for capital requirements in all banks around the world, and also the what we call SOFR, SOFR. The transition Goldilocks is sharing to using the Department of Treasury's Office of Financial Research. It's now providing the collection of centrally cleared transactions that happen overnight. This records liquidity exchanges and money exchanges in the government, in the banking system, in the assets as well, for the overnight money in the banks. So imagine you go in and you exchange. Imagine you deposit money. Imagine you have a transaction in the new banking system and it's large. Let's say, for example, overnight that money sits there. There are new rules going into play for banks to make sure that the clearing of that money, the securing of that money, and the recording and reporting of that money is accurate in the new banking system. A repurchase agreement, or what's called a repo agreement, is a transaction between a buyer, which is typically the government, and the seller, which is typically the bank. And there's agreements to make sure that the government and the banks make sure that they have securely recorded all of the transactions in the banking system with secure mechanisms to make sure that the transactions are safe and also recorded properly in their records. Special transactions are financial transactions and activities that require unique accounting treatments that are not regular or frequent. For example, they can include reserves or guarantees, bank bills, so forth and so on. The secured overnight financing rate is a measure of the cost of borrowing cash overnight using Treasury securities as collateral. This particular market is moving into the Treasury. So this is a transition, folks. In layman's terms, this is a transition of these specific types of transactions in the old banking system for the secured overnight financing rate. They will now move under the U.S. Treasury. What this is showing us is how Goldilocks has been sharing for quite some time, whereby the U.S. Treasury, such as these transactions, will be rolled under them. The responsibilities of the Federal Reserve, responsibilities of the IRS, responsibilities under the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, and more are all rolling under the U.S. Department of Treasury. November the 5th is a key date to finalize the transition, and it will be a continued process after November the 5th, November the 25th. But November the 25th is the date for the transition to begin to take place, where the Fed, the SEC, the CFTC, and others are transitioning under the U.S. Department of Treasury, and the processes and procedures in the old banking system to begin to roll under the U.S. Department of Treasury. Goldilocks says now we are seeing the beginning stages of this transition taking place at this time. This process will help support the overall economy and lessen the risk going forward. The New York Fed will implement these two modifications on November the 25th. From that moment forward, everything turns to gold and a little bit more each day. Goldilocks is not saying that that's when the gold standard begins, but Goldilocks is sharing that as a result of this transition, gold can become more and more of a standard moving forward, because eventually we will move to the ultimate gold standard. Folks, and as well, Goldilocks wants you to know that regarding Iraq is now licensed for foreign currency exchanges, and there will be a report on that tomorrow. Stay tuned, stay grounded, stay in unconditional love.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter.